of Guy Langois. And a lot of you probably know him from the work that he's done at Shelter Farms. And he's also a talented musician, but we're not here to talk about that one today. He's got a lot of stuff growing. Right now we're standing in front of an area, and you said this is the end of your...
Well, this is our summer crops right now. Our strawberries are done, and we're in front of you. We have carrots that we'll probably harvest in the fall, and we have some beets and lettuce. So these are all crops that we planted through the summer. Then behind us we have some flowers, nasturtiums and marigolds and echinacea flowers, interplanted with other crops here. We have some turnips.
Oh, cool.
We have turnips, rutabaga, more beets, Swiss chard. Yeah, so this is a very diverse garden beds here, because we interplant a lot of different types of crops together, because that's actually very beneficial for the soil. And the
okay.
plants, yeah.
I thought for sure you were going to say that it confuses the bugs and you get fewer bugs coming through.
Yeah.
So how is it good for the soil?
Well, it's good for the soil biology, where it like if you just had brassicas in the bed, like things like kale and cabbage,
Okay.
it would if you had the same thing growing all the time, it could promote some kind of disease like club root. But it also discourages the growth of beneficial mycelium in the soil.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know what? I didn't know it inhibited that. Ha, good to know. Good to know. Do you ever leave your carrots in over the winters? Because I know if they get hit with frost, they get sweeter.
Yeah, they do. The certain types, like the Napoli carrots, really get really nice, more sugar in it, because the sugar is like their antifreeze to prevent it from freezing, and they get sweeter as the cold. Yeah.
See, and
Not all carrots,
sweet.
but the Napoli is a really good variety for that, for overwintering.
Okay, cool. Good to know.
Yeah, and then we have raspberries back here in one bed. And we have poppies growing in all the beds. They're with different flowers. They're all done now, but we'll save the poppy seed for putting in muffins and cakes.
Yeah,
and things.
yeah, I love poppy seed muffins.
Then we have some grapes over there along the fence, green and Concord grapes. And in the corner is a mulberry bush. Yeah. All around the mulberry bush.
Grapes, you said, are doing really, really well this year.
Yeah, they're doing really well. I'm pleased with it. We fertilize with compost tea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're looking good. This is a cherry tree in front of us here. It has a lot of insect damage, but notice the ladybugs coming in and trying to keep balance on there, but there's some caterpillars in there. And then this tree was really attacked. This is a plum tree, beautiful speckled purple plum tree. It's a delicious fruit. We had a really good crop last year, but this year it was really hit bad with insects, and we didn't think it was going to live. It was hardly any leaves on it.
Do you think it has anything to do with the fact that it was such a cool spring? Like,
well, it had a lot of flowers on it, and then the winds came and knocked all the flowers off. I don't expect to get any fruit off of here, and quite honestly, it's in such bad shape. I think it's best to leave it to have a break for a year.
Yeah.
Because the fruit really does take a lot. So we're fertilizing it and watering it, and it's come back. It's looking better now.
well, it's looking better than my apple tree, and that's I've got a sour cherry, and it was covered in blooms, and the cold and the wind blew all the blossoms off before the bees even had a chance. And my apple tree, well, looks way worse than your cherry tree. And I don't have any apples at all. And yet there's people a couple blocks over and their apple tree's just loaded, and I'm going, I want your micro pocket. But so when you're done with these beds, will you be putting anything else in here for?
Well, there's some beds over there that we're going to be planting some fall winter crops, and I have those in the greenhouse in trays that are just growing in soil blocks. Most of these beds will probably just we'll be done with them in the next month or two. But this one here has beans in it and lettuce, and we have some shade cloth over it to keep the sun off that bed. And then the next bed over there is your asparagus bed.
Yeah.
And we have a few other lettuce and kale in there growing because, you know, it's a lot of space and we only get that crop early in the spring and then it just sits there for the rest of the season. And we took our 2 beds, the ones that are looking empty there,
Okay.
those had garlic in it. So we harvested all the garlic. I've been growing garlic for about 10 years now, and always the same seeds, saving some seeds and getting some new stock from local farmers. And but we just harvest it, so that's what I'm going to plant the soil blocks that are in the greenhouse.
Okay.
I'm going to grow it in, put it in those beds, and then the far bed is parsnips. So that's the one that's really green with.
Yep.
So we have about 40 parsnip plants there, and they're doing really well.
Glad to see there's somebody that loves parsnips.
Mm-hmm.
Not me.
Yeah, they're hard to grow. They're hard to germinate, and they're like carrots. They take a long time to germinate. So I did them. I started them in paper towel, right?
Oh, okay,
and
yeah.
then I transferred them to soil blocks and got them so they just started growing and getting their first true leaf. And then I transplanted them in the garden, and they're doing famously. I'm really happy with that. That's a technique I've been using for a few years, and with really good results. Other than that, trying to seed parsnips in the ground is like hopeless. It just it's so tricky because the soil dries out, and then the seeds dry out, and they die.
Yeah.
So
And it's like 10 minutes you leave them unattended, and that's what happens, isn't it? Yeah.
we do have a nectarine tree on the side of the house that's exfoliated against the wall there, but that one's been sick too. It has a fungus, and it's looking better now, but it lost most of its leaf, and I think it's only got 1 nectarine on it.
Oh.
That's about it. But yeah, and then we got herbs, different herbs like thyme, oregano, sage, and rosemary growing over there. We have a lot of beneficial plants also that attract insects and bees in the garden.
I'm sitting here looking at your nasturtiums and your marigolds and echinacea.
Yeah, they're beautiful. Yeah. Then we have some squash growing along the fence over there. I have a couple of different varieties of squash, and they'll climb over the fence. And
you had said you had planted your winter, you had just planted your winter squash. So when you're saying winter squash, is it because it's...
usually plant them like mid-season, and then you harvest in the fall. So it's, yeah.
Okay, I was just sitting here going, winter squash, does that mean it just grows really, really late, or they
well, the summer squash is like zucchini, patty pan squash, and then the winter squash are like Hubbards and acorn squash, things like that.
That makes sense.
Like storage squash, they can store them for months and months in the winter time. Yeah.
Okay.
And everything's on a drip irrigation system and micro irrigation system, so it uses very little water. I usually put it on a timer. It's on a timer. It goes on every second day for about 45 minutes. And on really hot days, I run it every day in the morning when it's cool. And it doesn't use much water. Yeah.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
I still get out there with the hose first thing in the morning where it's needed.
Yeah. Well, in the greenhouse, I water by hand in there. I don't have... I've never had any luck with automated systems and greenhouses and watering. It's always been a disaster. So I water by hand, and things are looking pretty good in there. We've got lots of melons and cucumbers, and like to show you that.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to meet you back in Guy's greenhouse. He'll be there for sure. I don't know if I'll fit.
So welcome to the greenhouse. So this was all made with electrical conduit that I bought from an electric supplier here, electrical supply. All the 90s and 45 elbows and all the pipes got cut here locally, and just basically assembled like an erector set and bought the plastic locally, and it's actually pretty easy to build.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm impressed because I was saying to him that I really wanted a greenhouse, but I just didn't know where to get one. Mm-hmm. I can make it.
Yeah, it's pretty
That's
easy.
Amazing.
If you got some carpentry skills or know somebody who's handy. In here I've got lots of peppers growing. We've got some hot peppers, some bell peppers. They're all starting to change color a bit. Like this one here is turning orange. Nice orange one. and behind you, some big cucumbers. Look at this one here. So,
oh my word.
should harvest it. So there's a nice...
See the advantages to greenhouses, you guys. Oh my word.
Yeah.
This is brilliant.
Yeah. So, and then this year I'm growing melons. So I've got lots of, 4 different types of melons. I have cantaloupes, honeydew, and then a Gallia melon, which is like a green flesh melon.
Like a honeydew?
It's kind of like a honeydew, but it's
but not.
No, it's yellow on the outside and green on the inside, and it's very, yeah, there's one right there. And then I have a watermelon. It's pretty neat. It's sort of hiding underneath the table there. And then we have tomatoes. Here, I'll pick one. Here, try one. They're
I love this job.
yeah, they're really sweet and amazing flavor. Yeah, the cucumbers are doing well, and I'm very happy with the melons. And then we have some eggplants growing back here. We harvested some the other night, and my wife made some baba ganoush, you know.
I saw that on Facebook.
Yeah, it's delicious. Yeah. And there's another watermelon growing right there. I'm really happy about that one.
Love the looks of these leaves.
That's a watermelon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, are these your soil blocks?
Yeah, these are the soil blocks here. I have some kohlrabi in soil blocks. I have some dill and basil. This is a Japanese chrysanthemum. So these are like an edible flower and edible leaves. It grows quite large.
Is that the one you can make tea out of?
I'm not sure, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
It's a new thing that I'm growing, and so it grows over the winter. And then we have spinach that I'm going to plant in the garden. So these are all my fall-winter crops that I'm growing. Cilantro, arugula, collards, kales, and some scallions.
And those are all the ones that you're going to put in those empty beds out that way?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's not too late for people to think about getting transplants from local growers, is it?
I don't know. I think it's getting a little late. These crops here would do well. So if you can find somebody who's got some of these already started, that would be okay. Unless you got a greenhouse, you know. In a greenhouse, I could conceivably grow lettuce in here through the winter and other greens.
Okay. Yeah. I was thinking like purple sprouting broccoli, the things that you get to the teenage stage and then...
Yeah, that's a good one. I do have some of those in the garden.
Oh, do you?
Yeah,
already?
So I've started them already and put them in the garden, in where I had the garlic. Yeah. So that's the trick, is that always trying to stagger what you're growing, so you have like continuous harvest and all kinds of different things, and so you're using the space as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, I've got one bed and I've left it and it's gone to seed. So I have a Chinese cabbage and broccoli, and I've got lettuce that finally bolted, and they're just starting to go to seed. So I can save some for next year, which should be good.
Nice.
But I am going to check with the local growers and see if it's not too late to get some of these overwintering ones. I thought I had planted some purple sprouting broccoli and I was so excited, and I moved the lettuce back, and no, it's a renegade tomato. So somebody must have been eating a tomato and gone, I don't like this one, threw it in there. So no, it's a little late for tomatoes to start for me.
Yeah, I do. That squash behind there, the camera, is actually a volunteer, and I didn't know what it was. I had it in a pot, and I said, okay, out of here. You're taking up too much space. It has beautiful flowers on it and attracts the bees and all that, but it's a runt, I guess. It's
yeah.
It's not really producing anything.
It's the same. I've got 2 pumpkins in the front, and they haven't done anything, so it's too late for anything to form and actually grow now. So I'm just picking the blossoms and frying them up instead. So
yeah,
you do what you can with what you're growing.
I grow organically. Everything is like I only use organic fertilizers and natural type of fertilizers. I use a compost tea that I mix and brew in here with some air pumps, and basically that's what I feed all the plants out here.
Well, it sure seems to work for you, I'll say.
It's a little hot in here. Like the temperature is pretty, yeah, it's about 40 degrees Celsius. That's, 5 degrees hotter than I like. I have some shade cloth on the greenhouse to try to shade it. So at least the sun is kept off the fruit and preventing sun scald, but it definitely, it's you can see the leaves are curling. And
Yeah.
so it's a little too hot. Yeah. Got the fan going, but the other fan I turned off because it's a little too noisy. Yeah.
Well, I think this is just absolutely amazing. It's not a huge greenhouse, but boy, what huge production you've got going on in here.
Definitely trellising tomatoes like this and
with the
melons,
strings.
the strings, is the way to go in a small, tight space like this. You can produce a lot of produce.
Yeah. Oh, you've got me going. I found a Pinterest greenhouse that just folds out from the side of the wall, so I think I might just look at my husband and say, hey, we can do it with the conduit. We'll just see how lucky I am and if this actually works.
Yeah.
But this is absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
And I'm going to come over for some more tips and hints another day.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. See you later.
Bye. Thanks.
We're standing in my garden, and I'm assuming a lot of you guys are probably looking at your garden in kind of the same way. I know we had that little mini heat wave that just about killed everybody, but regardless of that, at this time of year, your garden can look kind of nasty. It's either super lush and you're just inundated with all sorts of fruits and vegetables, or the spring crops, and we did have a nice long cool spring, they're done, they're gone. My peas have all been pulled, most of my lettuce is done, my radishes are all gone. My beans are just finally starting to come up. But I thought today I would just make a mention about my potatoes, because they were all lovely, standing up and lovely green. And I guess my husband didn't come out here very often because he looked at me yesterday and went, whoa, what happened to the potatoes? So for those of you that are growing potatoes for the first time, this is what happens to your potatoes. They die back. And once they've died back like this, you have a couple of options. You can use a pitchfork, you can just use your fingers and gloves, but this is the time when you're going to dig up your potatoes. If you're going to eat them right away, dig them up, wash them off, cook them and eat them. They'll last for a while in the house. If you are planning on using them as a storage potato, well then you're going to want to just cut the tops all off and leave them in the ground for about a week or two, preferably 2, because it tightens up the skin on them. It toughens them up and they'll store for you a lot longer. I've just got a shallow bed. I didn't trench these really deep or hill them up a whole lot. But I got a fair amount of purple potatoes here. And I have to admit, I wasn't going to grow potatoes at all this year. Not even a little bit. And then we thought, well, we should just really show people how to do them in a raised bed. And what with the weather, we never actually got to it. I kept planting, thinking that we were going to film, and the weather crushed us. And so I planted some more, and we were going to film again, and the weather crushed us. So I have little itty bitty renegade potatoes here, which are fine. But they're the little ones that when you're getting your potatoes out, try to find all of them unless you plan on having volunteers next year, because they will. They'll stay in the soil and they'll just pop up as potatoes next year. But these guys are purple. Russian blue, I think, is what they are. But I also have a lot of warba potatoes in here. And these are the ones I really like. Typically I would use my pitchfork for doing this, but I lent it to a neighbor because he's trying to dig up some trees and shrubs that are important to him. And he's putting them in a nursery bed for now. But look, I get a fair amount of spuds. I got new spuds, I got old spuds. I've got spuds that are great for potato salad. And that's all I'm going to do for now, because really, do you really want to see me just digging up potatoes? And I will. I'll go get my pitchfork and I'll do this proper. And then this stuff will all just go in the compost pile. I said I was going to stop, wasn't I? Didn't I? So guess what? I'll stop. Sorry. Woohoo! And that's about it. So if you're going to eat them right away, dig them up. Don't leave them in the sunlight. They turn green, and that green is really not good for you. It makes you sick. If you're going to store them, just cut off all the tops. Leave a little bit above the ground, but that's just so you know where they were. And then after 2 weeks, you can dig them up and you can store them for a long time. These are my dragon tongue beans. These guys, I don't know why, but these ones got really sunburned when we had that heat wave. I came out one day and they were just getting torched. So all I did, just to save them, was for when the sun came out, the real heat of the day, I just did that. Provided shade on this side, still got lots of airflow on that side. When the heat left and sunshine left, I pulled it off. And they're just getting me beans like crazy. So I'm getting kind of excited about it. It's a lot of fun growing these things and more fun eating them. Feels like kind of a tidbit tilly day today. I'm just doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. The other one that's a question that gets asked quite a bit, what about my onions? Well, when they start falling over, then you know they're done. And with onions, if you leave them go to seed and go to flower, like these guys are, I did this because I really want to save some seeds this year, but when you do that, your bulbs are really small, you guys. They're going to be tasty, but they don't get to any size that feels like it was even worth growing. But I will have lots of seeds off the ones I'm not pulling out. Other than that, you can cut the tops off, or you can leave them on. You pull your onions, and they're like garlic. You have to leave them cure. Someplace that's got good airflow, it's out of the sun, and you want to wait until you get a couple of really good papery layers on the outside before you decide that you're going to store them. You can let these guys just dry, and if you go on YouTube, there's different ways of braiding it. Or you could refer to that last episode we did, or the episode that we did with Stephanie, and she showed you how to braid garlic. Braiding the onions is exactly the same, and she did it really well. So you might want to just check that out. So there's your onions. If you want, you can chop this stuff off. You can chop it up. You can eat it. You can dehydrate it and save it for the winter. Got lots and lots of options. Or like I said, you can just wait until it's kind of brown, still pliable, and you can braid them and hang them for storage. One of the other things you can do, not during the heat of the summer, but they're not particularly particular, and that is your chives in your garden. You can, if they are getting too big or too bulky, or you happen to have a neighbor that wants some, you can actually just split them at any time. These guys are going to seed. They look like a little brown head like that, and then you get all the seeds that come out. And they're just little black seeds, but there's a whole lot of them. I actually have a bag that I'm starting to save in case I need more. But for that, chives don't have a really, really deep root system. And I dug these ones up already just because it was cooler this morning. But I've got a little bundle from this batch here. So you can see, not really a big long root system. It might go down about that far. And you can continue to split them up into small bunches. There's another little bunch. There's another little bunch. And you just tease them apart. And then you can repot them and you can plunk them anywhere else in your garden that you want. I've started doing them on the outside borders because the deer don't eat them and the deer don't like them. So I'm thinking the more stuff I have at the entrance to my property that says, no, there's nothing in here for you, I will grow them. And you get the flowers on them. The regular, I believe it is regular chives, you get the pink flowers, and on your garlic chives, you get the white flowers. And I do fiddle a lot. I'm sorry. There's my chives. I'm going to hold still for a minute so you can see my green. And after that, or actually, you know what, if your bundle's too big and you just don't have anybody else, you can just make it smaller. You can take the whole chunk out, you can just divide it into 4, put one of those pieces back in, and then you can just dehydrate the rest. You might be able to talk to somebody that's got a freeze dryer and freeze dry them, or just eat a lot. And that's about it for these guys. That's my potatoes, scorched beans, how to deal with your onions, and the chives. But up next, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about garlic. Hi, and we're back. And I said I was going to talk a little bit more about garlic. You guys, I'm not an expert in any of this, so this is just the little route that I've gone, and this is what's happened with me. First year I talked about the garlic scapes. If you do not cut your garlic scapes when they've made your 1 or 2 loops and used them in your cooking or pickling, what they do is they straighten out. And you get these big bulby things on the top. I've peeled this one over here so that you can kind of see it a little bit better. It didn't open on its own yet. I gotta wait just a little bit longer. They'll split. But you get these flowers, and these ones this year, oh my goodness, they have absolutely massive bulbils on them. I'm absolutely gobsmacked. And I say that, you guys, because the first year that I did it, I saved some of them so that I can show kids when I go to schools. But these were the sizes of the bulbils that I got the first year. Just these little teeny tiny guys. And the first year that they grew, I got bulbils that size. This year, they went to that size. And so these guys went to that size. Last year I also planted some this size, and they've come out this big. Now, they've actually started making little cloves. So I know that next year they're going to get bigger. These ones, this I just thought was interesting, and I'd share it with you. When I was planting my garlic cloves, I lost a bulb. I was sure I had another bulb of garlic that I needed to split up and plant. I couldn't find it anywhere. I was going down the side bed and I saw all these little green things, and I thought, oh, they look like green onions. I should split them up. I dug it up only to discover that it was the bulb of garlic. So I went, I wonder what they'll do if I don't break them apart. So I just left them in the ground all together, and they did grow. I got garlic bulbs, but they're not very big. So I'm assuming that being that close together, they just didn't have the room to grow or the inclination to get big, because the rest of the ones that I planted as individual cloves, I got this big. So I'm quite chuffed with it. They're still curing. I've got them on a wire rack, and I need to clean them off, chop off the roots, and then when they're dry enough, I'll probably chop them about 2-3 inches above the bulb, and they'll keep for a couple of months for me. But they are really good, a real good size. I know with the heat, I probably left some of them in too long, and when you have that happen, they start to split open. You've got your paper wrap, but they've decided, no, it's almost time to start growing new plants, so they split. Doesn't hurt your garlic at all. It just means these are the ones that go to the kitchen, and you can start eating right away, or pick them off, and these are the guys that you plant in October, September, October, because it is getting to be that time, you guys.